Well, good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder and this is BRN AM for Tuesday, September 1st, 2020. Here are our top stories. FinTech investment deals edge higher in the first half of 2020 and developing the human touch for FinTech investment. Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is Daniel Klein, Senior Technology and Consumer Products Reporter with The Motley Fool. Dan, welcome back to the program. Great to see you this morning.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to see you as always. Lots going on with tech. And, last week I spoke to Devin Banerjee and others about the recalibration of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, really tech laden. And it seems like the news continues very positively for FinTech. FinTech investment is up globally during the first half of 2020, but down domestically here in the U.S. Want to get your perspectives on this?
So I wouldn't read a ton into it being down domestically in the U.S. I think we have a lot of large-scale companies, and some of the fintech investment here it's usually like Apple buys some company you've never heard of for $80 million to do some tiny little thing in the back end. Here's why it's going up. The way we pay for everything has changed. We have pulled forward 5 to 10 years of growth, in that area because of the pandemic. Does it feel weird to you, Jeff, to hand someone cash now? I know if I see that at a grocery store, I'm thinking, ugh. Like, the only place I use cash is at my cowork, and I'm in my cowork now. I'll throw a 20 in the collective bin because like some of the fancier bottles of water or whatnot you pay for as opposed to cans are included. So, I'll just throw $20 in, and I figure that's going to sit there long enough that, it'll be fine when the office manager collects it. But everything is digital, and everything is contactless where at all possible. So a lot of companies need to accelerate their ability to do that. Security is a major factor. I did a show about Okta this week, and you don't think a lot about two-factor authentication, but all of the different things happening in the background to keep these transactions safe are pretty amazing. And companies that were, somewhat obscure but very, very large are being, snapped up in deals or making partnerships with big players because, look, our need for fintech is where the rest of the world has been, or at least large parts of Asia have been for a decade. I mean, in the US, using something like your iPhone to pay for a soda at a vending machine is relatively limited, and that is going to become the norm. I've long used my phone wherever possible to check out, and that's because I like to get the credit card rewards points, and I'll often go home that night and pay the bill, even though I don't technically have to. I think we're moving to a world where everyone is going to do that. People like my 70-year-old mother had to learn how to do mobile order and pay if she wants to get a coffee at various places. I was at Disney World the other day. I was at Hollywood Studios, and the vast majority of the kiosks there, you order on the app and pay, and it tells you when your order is ready, so you don't even get into line. If you want to make a reservation to eat at a sit-down place, you put your food in, you make your order, and then when you get there, you tell it, hey, I'm here. They produce your order, and something flashes, and then you walk up. It eliminates congestion. It solves problem. That is not all fintech, but it is the example of where we're going. And look, there's a heavy level of convenience to that. Who likes to stand around not knowing when they're going to get taken?
Yeah, my time is valuable. I don't like to wait. My wife will tell you that. But Dan, on the network, on the podcast, we talked about some retailers pivoting, and again, they moved to digital. I think you mentioned a makeup company that saw digital sales skyrocket, which is something you would not expect. This, of course, was aided by fintech because people needed to browse, buy, select, and receive their product from online. And you also talked about the pivot with healthcare. I mean, this is really the undergirding, and I think we would expect to see much more investment post-COVID, maybe during COVID, but we would see things like in retail and healthcare as well.
Yeah, Jeff, I'm a big tech guy, But the beauty company is Ulta Beauty, and that is a company that has really done well at the sort of intersection of prestige and value. They're not expensive, but they also have some cachet. It's very much the target of the beauty space. When they entered the pandemic, they had a website, and the website was useful for replenishment. If you always wear this color lipstick, well, you can order it online if you're busy. But their business was browsing and makeovers and trying things on. Being able to pivot and add an online tool where you can try on makeup from home shows good leadership. And all of these companies, Facebook has added multiple different ways to check out. So if I launch a Facebook store, I can use a Shopify store, and Shopify checkout will be accepted on Facebook. That's true of a number of other platforms. That makes everything more convenient. Jeff, how frustrating is it when you go online for Facebook and one of your friends has a fundraiser, and it's a super worthy fundraiser, but you have to go find your credit card and log in all your information? How nice is it when you see one and you log in and it's like, oh, would you like to pay? Would you like to use the card on file? I have a card on file. That's awesome. Making the world convenient is being accelerated. Look, I thought we'd be Iron Man by now. I thought that technology would absolutely be available. We'd be flying from place to place and I guess blasting lasers at our enemies. I'm not sure if that part I really thought out. But things like, ordering from Starbucks while you're in line and having it be ready when you get to the window are amazing. Now, is it perfect? No. Chipotle rolled out Chipotlanes, and because you have to order on your app and you can't order while in line, which is something many people don't understand, it leads to a bottleneck. They haven't quite figured it out. But I'm 100% confident that all of these not all of them, that most of these businesses will work this out. And that's why there's so many fintech deals, because look, don't create it if you can buy it. And companies like Amazon, they're taking their contact-free grocery technology and they're making it available to other companies. You can buy that. So, that makes them even more of a tech company. And they just opened their first in-person grocery store using that technology. I say in-person because they have 3 other stores open, but they're only using them for delivery at the moment.
Dan, we've got about a minute left in this segment, but one of the things that we've seen during the pandemic is significant job loss, and some of those jobs have come back, but others, because of this shift to digital, the investment in fintech, both before, during, and after, has led to the removal of these jobs, and they won't come back at all. Thoughts about that? I mean, I love the fast movement, but that disruption can also leave some challenges for those, I don't know, left behind is the right word, but those who are displaced, that's a better word, displaced by these fintech opportunities.
In under a minute, let me bring up 2 quick things. Google came out last week with 3 certificates that are going to cost you about $300, take about 6 months, and you'll be certified to be a program manager or 2 other categories. And Google is going to treat those like 4-year college degrees. More companies need to be doing things like that. The second thing is I did an interview last week, and I hope it ends up on a public-facing platform, but right now it just remembers. I talked to the CEO of a group called Workshop for Warriors, and what they do is they train military veterans to do manufacturing jobs, highly skilled, highly paid manufacturing jobs, and they ladder skills on top of each other. So you learn one thing, enough to get a job, enough to be making some money, and then they teach you something else so you could get a promotion, so you could work your way up. There are over 5 million unfilled skilled manufacturing jobs. I'll make this personal. My family struggles to hire skilled welders in New Hampshire. There are tons of jobs out there. As a worker, you need to work to figure out what the needed skills are, how they match up to what you can do, and go get those skills. A 6-month Google certificate is not daunting. I'm going to have my son do it, whether or not he wants to or not, because it feels like a useful thing he could have in his back pocket. More companies need to be doing this. More states need to figure out how do we train people for these manufacturing jobs. And look, some of that is about security as well. It's not great that as a country, we didn't have the ability to make personal protective equipment because we had outsourced all of that. Some of this, and I'm not being jingoistic. I'm a big fan of a global economy. My family sources things from China and makes things in the US, but we do need to fill these jobs so we have the capacity to get things done and build stuff.
Thanks, Dan. And when we come back, we're going to talk to Dan about fintech. We've talked about fintech growth, but you know what? You still need that human touch. Stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
If you are like 58% of Americans, you didn't go to college. Or you did, but never finished. Maybe it's the thought of a big, intimidating campus. At Independence University, all classes are held online. Maybe it's the thought of being alone in a sea of students. At Independence U, you'll get a personal support team to help you every step of the way. Maybe it's the cost of all those books and supplies. Online means no books to buy. We even give you a new laptop and tablet to keep when you graduate. Maybe your life doesn't fit typical college classes. At Independence U, our online college fits your schedule. Let's meet a few students.
Independence University held my hand through the process.
Don't be afraid to take the leap because it has changed my life drastically.
Just take the first step and you can do it. If I did it, you can do it too.
At IU, there's no barriers to your degree.
800-535-9916.
Welcome back. We're talking to the Motley Fool's Dan Klein. Dan, thanks for staying with us this morning.
Thanks for keeping me.
Okay, Dan, so we talked about the shift to fintech. Great segment. We saw the recalibration of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But you know what? We still need that human touch. We got to have that human touch because that's the only way right now to elicit trust. Trust in your advisor, trust in the system. I want to get your thoughts on this.
So AI can, in theory, do this. Most interactions are not unique. And the problem is right now, we've all had those experiences. You log on, you call up someplace, and you get the robot voice. And the robot voice asks you a series of questions that you should be able to motor through in like 90 seconds, but instead it takes like 6 minutes because it doesn't follow. And then it asks you for information. Jeff, input your phone number, and you do. And eventually the AI can't solve it. It's told you 6 times to go to their website, but your problem is that your internet isn't working. And then eventually you get a person. We need an AI that's smart enough to know when it needs help. And I think we're moving towards that, where, as a company, is it cost efficient to sit someone who can be a truly good customer service rep? It really isn't. It's something we struggle with at Motley Fool, where, some of our products are $100 a year. How much customer service can we spend on a product that's $100 a year? So obviously you want to make sure your website, your social media, all of your material is there so people can solve their own problems. AI can do that. Now, when you get to our products that are $15,000, or I have no idea what our prices are, but some very expensive products, that's going to afford more personal touch. T-Mobile has gone that direction, where because the life cycle of your relationship with them is so important, when you have a problem, you get a person who knows all your information. It is a better solution, but ideally, technology and AI is going to get there. So you can use, your Alexa, your Siri. Apologies to people who I just activated their devices. I forgot I'm not supposed to say those particular words out loud. It's actually been a big problem on our live broadcast. If you mention it, everybody starts to complain because their houses go crazy. But that said, companies need to put much more focus on human touch, because there's a cheat we've talked about a lot. You're having a big problem with a company, you go to Twitter, and I did this with Southwest Airlines. At Southwest, I'm standing in line and you're violating your own procedures. What the heck is going on? And they called the desk, like they called the gate. That is how quickly that got done. That's great, but I shouldn't have to do that. There should be an easy way for a company to reach it. And look, not enough companies prioritize this. I do interviews pretty regularly with the head of the American Customer Satisfaction Index, and they do a series of annual reports. They cover 57 industries, and the lowest rated are always the same. It's always cable companies and ISPs, because they don't care. But the companies that do care, look, a retailer trying to win your business is going to use AI and use technology to figure out how to get returns done as easily as possible.
But Dan, what about empathy? Okay, when you're dealing with a human, let's just take finance, a financial advisor, since our show is about retirement and savings. If I sit down with a financial advisor one-on-one, and I selected them through a due diligence process, I know they're a good fit for me. They have empathy. They can understand, what they can be in my shoes because they may have gone through a situation, or they may have a client who's gone through that situation. Can you teach, using technology, can you teach an artificial intelligence entity or a program to be empathetic? I think a lot of people, some of that trust comes from that empathy, that relating to the issue that you're having.
So I don't think you can do that yet, but what you can use the AI to make sure you get matched with the right person. So rather than you calling up your brokerage or your bank and they give you someone who's just a person, and I found this, I'll give an example. When we were buying a house in Connecticut for the first time, it took us 5 or 6 realtors before we found someone who actually cared about what we were looking for. I told you this story before. I called him about a house he was listing. I told him what I wanted, and he said, "That is not the house for you." And I said, "That's my guy," because he had my interests at heart. I think that's what the bank can figure out. What are your goals? What is all? And I've sat through this with some of the bigger banks. They're all working on it. How do I make sure that Jeff gets the person that's going to understand his investing style? That security is more important for him than having a yacht or sleeping at night. We often talk about this with stocks. When do you sell? If something's a big enough portion of your portfolio that you're worried about it when you go to bed, maybe it's time to trim that stock. And I think that's where technology could come in and match you, and then it could be a partner along the way. Well, what information do you want as you go on your retirement journey? Because your human rep isn't going to be able to talk to you every day, but maybe your AI rep is sending you a little package once a week. Here's where you stand. Maybe you only want that quarterly. That's where technology can come in. And I think there are some companies doing it really well. There are a lot of companies doing it clumsily, but I think we're going to get there. We should not be trying to replace people. I don't think, let's say you have a disaster, something goes wrong and you need the money where you have to spend $30,000 on your house, to fix your house. You want a human being that's going to help you figure out the best solution for that. Right. You do not want a robot in that situation. So we're going to need less people, but I've often said good customer service people, you can't pay them enough. And that's certainly true with empathetic financial advisors.
And, Dan, I don't know if there's an AI out there that can understand my Baltimore accent. Dan, always a pleasure chatting with you. Take care. Great to have you on the program. Thanks for sharing your perspective. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest or someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement, markets, technology, personal finance, and more, all in one place, check out today's edition of The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a tax doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.